Research undertaken in Denmark has shown that plants placed too close to Wi-Fi routers have trouble growing. The experiment was performed by a group of 9th graders after their proposal to monitor the effects of sleeping by a cell phone was rejected due to the lack of sufficient resources. Undaunted, they switched their focus to the more attainable goal of assessing the impact that router radiation from Wi-Fi had on plants. The group planted 12 containers of garden cress seeds and placed half in a room near 2 Wi-Fi devices and the other half in a separate room with no such gadgets. For 12 days, they monitored the progress of the seeds by photographing, weighing, and measuring them. By the end of the test duration, the results were clear. The seeds that were placed near the router had died or not grown as usual, while the others had begun to flourish. The teacher who oversaw the experiment assured critics that the 2 specimens were watered and cared for in the same manner. Their discovery has gotten the attention of a professor at the Karolinska Institute who plans to carry out a similar test, but in a more controlled environment.
Apart from one. A sensational piece of research by Joseph Kuhn and his team. In an experiment, the doctor worked with 8 beehives and placed a regular home deck phone inside half of them. The scientists then monitored if the presence of a deck phone would affect the way that bees returned to their hive. The results were astonishing. In the hives where no deck phone was present, the bees returned at a normal rate. But in the hives which contained a deck phone, the bees hardly returned at all. In one hive containing a deck phone, not a single bee returned. To fully understand the relevance of Dr. Kuhn's experiment, we must first understand how a deck phone works. The reason you are able to walk around your home talking on your deck phone is because the base station of the deck phone sends electromagnetic frequency waves, called microwaves, to the handset. This is exactly the same way that a mobile phone mast communicates with a mobile phone. A deck phone is basically a miniature version of a mobile phone mast. If a bee is affected by what comes out of a deck phone, it will most definitely be affected by what comes out of a mobile phone mast. And with 4 billion mobile phone users around the world, all of a sudden, there are an awful lot of mobile phone masts. The bee's magnetic sense allows it to navigate using the magnetic lines of the Earth, an ability it has spent millions of years fine-tuning and developing. Does it stand to reason then that such an acute sensitivity would be affected by even the slightest change in the electromagnetic environment? So what about a gargantuan change, and one which has happened almost overnight?
So
It's pretty ugly, isn't it?
yeah, and it's constant as well. One thing you'll notice is it doesn't stop. It's 24/7. This is what's coming out of the mast. If you can see the mast, you're being exposed to it.
Right.
Frankly, even if you can't, you're being exposed to it if you're this distance away, because it'll pass through, concrete walls and things. It'll dampen it a bit, but not very much. If you're within 200-300 metres of the mast up there, this is what you're going to be exposed to 24/7.
When you can hear it, it changes everything.
It does.
Imagine if you could see it.
It'd be the equivalent of seeing a daily smog.
Yeah.
around you.
With a constant smog of man-made frequencies surrounding our daily lives, and no testing as to its safety, is there any wonder people's bodies have started to react? With so many phones and masts, and a mobile phone industry worth trillions, you would hope that by now a strict governing body would have been installed, an iron-fisted regulator who ensures the telecoms industry errs on the side of caution, someone to set strict levels which protect the public, someone to ensure that what we're being exposed to is absolutely safe, Unfortunately, we don't have any of that. What we do have is ICNIRP.
Well, ICNIRP was set up in Europe about 20 odd years ago to look into non-ionising radiation. It stands for the International Committee of Non-Ionising Radiation Protection, and their job is to look at all the literature that comes out and basically summarise it, say this is what the science definitely says.
You can't get elected to it, you get invited to join it,
Right.
if you're one of the preferred people.
Right, got
So it's always erred on the side of industry because that's really where its roots are.
So what we've got is we've got a guidance standard which they've set, which has been adopted by most of the countries in Europe, and it's been something that the European Commission themselves recommend, including their expert body CENIR. But those guidelines are based on evidence that we know has a cause and effect for radio frequency radiation. So the only setting that exists at the moment for energy that's around the same frequency of mobile phone masts, mobile phones, decked cordless phones, wireless communication devices that we're used to on a daily basis, is the one that we know works for microwave ovens, i.e. if you generate enough energy and localise it in a small enough area, you heat things. You heat tissue, you heat anything that has some level of water in it.
None of the current rules are anything to do with chronic health effects or cancer. None of them, not one of them. They're all set for heating effects and acute effects like prickling of the skin or your eyebrows going up or something like that, you know. None of them are for long-term health effects.
So saying that it's below 40, that means nothing. It's meaningless.
It's meaningless. It is not intended to protect from long-term health effects.
ICNIRP is, well, ICNIRP is just irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Well, for example, if you want to make sure that nobody exceeds the speed limit past a school, set the speed limit at 1,000 miles an hour. Then everyone will obey the speed limit. No one will exceed it. You know, everyone can go sailing past this school at 999 miles an hour and the limit will be complied with.
The advisory body effectively are not set up to look at the evidence with regards to safeguarding the general public.
So ICNIRP essentially there to establish what's 100% facts, and anything that's not 100% facts is not their concern.
That's right. They'll talk about it, they'll summarise what there is, what there isn't, and what's left to find out, and then that's it. They'll leave it there. No recommendations, nothing, because they just don't see it as their job.
What if I try and make a call? Let me try and make a call.
If you try and make a phone call, it'll be almost constant, because it starts a proper sort of two-way high bandwidth transmission.
Okay, let's do that. Oh wow.
So as soon as it picks up, this is it trying to, and this is once it's on call mode, this is now what the phone's doing.
And that's waves going from my phone to the base station and then being transmitted from there.
And that's it's picked up.
That's horrible.
And that's basically what your phone's transmitting into your head all the time, that you've got it operational and you're using it for phone.
We are a brilliant, yet complex organism. The way that our body functions isn't by chance, nor is it something which has happened overnight. Like every other creature on this planet, we have adapted into the environment we exist in. An environment which, since the beginning of time, has had a delicate balance of fields and resonances. These phenomena don't just surround us, they make us what we are. The cells of our body communicate with each other using light frequencies. Our DNA uses electromagnetic frequencies to reproduce itself. At the core of everything are protons and electrons, positive and negative, making all life magnetic. We are, as all life is, equipped with cryptochrome cells, which allows us to sense those fields in ways we barely understand. We are beings of frequency, electricity, light, and magnetism. and to become this way has taken millions of years, a process which started with the very first cell. Although we have embraced the wireless technology and accepted it into our everyday lives, at a cellular level, our bodies haven't. The frequencies that now surround us are as alien to our cells as they would be to our eyes, if only we could see them. Our children are being born into a world that their bodies simply cannot understand. Where will all this lead? As this film is being made, 4G technology is being rolled out around the world. To accommodate this, the ceiling levels are being increased. Wi-Fi is in almost every single home, school and business, surrounding us constantly. Deck phone technology is the norm in almost every single household. At a time when the industries responsible should be displaying caution, they are displaying a reckless disregard for our long-term health. Money talks, and they are about as likely to develop a conscience as the tobacco industries did. If there's going to be a change, it's not going to come from them. It's going to have to come from us. We just need to open our eyes and see the problem.
Would the MTHR, do you think, fund research into radio waves affecting melatonin, given that this is the mechanism that people seem to point to, that mobile phones affect the production of melatonin? Melatonin is an antioxidant, a free radical vacuum cleaner, if you like.
When we issue a call for research proposals, as we're doing at the moment, while we highlight areas that are of particular interest, we invite applications, proposals across the spectrum. But it would have to be prioritised alongside the other applications that we get. We only have a limited pot of money, but we don't rule out funding research on melatonin. It's not one of the areas that we've identified as a priority at the moment.
Hello friends, Neil here, EMF Safety Zone. I'm going to attempt to show you what most of us are exposing ourselves to on a daily basis at our computer workstations. Alright, this is my desk where I work, and I purposely turned my modem here, my AT&T UVerse modem, with the wireless function on. And so here's an acoustometer, radio frequency meter. But notice that this modem is innocently sitting here, apparently doing nothing. However, when we turn on the radio frequency meter, it is measuring the transmission of the wireless coming out of this modem. And you can see that the peak signal strength on the left column of this meter is at almost 6 volts per meter. That's as high as it goes. And on the right hand side, the microwatts per square meter in terms of average is sometimes peaking up at 10,000. These are extremely dangerous readings of radio frequency radiation going through my body, and most of us have our modems sitting like this at our desk, or maybe at the floor somewhere near us. Now I'm going to show you this. I'm going to turn the volume up. I'm going to walk around the house. And now I'm out of my office. I'm walking into the living room. I'm going to show you the office is back in that direction through those doors. And although the reading is down a little bit on the meter, you can still see that the whole house is more or less being influenced by this radio frequency transmission, because I don't have a cordless phone in this house. I'm going to walk into the bedroom. All right, this is where I sleep. And look at the meter. If I leave that wireless on all night, the meter is still registering roughly 0.30 volts per meter and about 1 to 5 microwatts per square meter. These are not high readings, but it's still going to disturb melatonin levels. It's still going to disturb my sleep. And you can hear, let me turn the volume up, you can hear the dit-dit-dit-dit, which is the frequency transmission from the wireless modem. And as we head back into the office here, you can see the readings picking up immediately. See that? And we're wondering why we're dizzy, nauseous, we have headaches, we have fatigue. This is what we're exposing ourselves to, sitting here working on the computer with a wireless modem. All right, now as you can see here, what I've done is I've plugged my Ethernet cord, I've hardwired the modem. All right, now please, this is very, very important to understand. You can think, okay, well, I've plugged my my blue or my yellow Ethernet cord or my gray Ethernet cord, whatever color you might have. I've plugged it into the modem, and I've plugged the other side of it right here into the computer. All right, so now I'm hardwired. Everything's okay. Let me turn on the acoustometer, the radio frequency meter. I'm trying to do this left-handed, and I'm not left-handed. Well, look at this. What's that all about? The readings are still coming off the modem. Let me show you something very important here. This is the AT&T website where I need to go to actually disable the modem. So I go up here, I turn it off, I save it, and now look what happens to the acoustometer. It's still on, have the volume all the way up, and there's no reading. See, now the wireless modem is disabled. Now I'm being free of being exposed to dangerous radio frequency radiation. And this is very important to understand. If I want the wireless function on the modem, I just go back here and I enable the wireless operation and I save it, and the wireless will go back on. So please don't think that with your modem, just because you have an Ethernet cord plugged into it, that the wireless function is disabled. It's very important to disable the wireless function through the software, or you need to call your internet service provider and ask them how to do it. However, once again, as you can see, there's no reading on the acoustometer from the modem. Let me see if I can do this left-handed. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to enable the wireless. I'm going to save it. And look at that. Even though I have an Ethernet cable plugged into it, Ethernet cord, the radio frequency meter is showing extremely dangerous levels of RF radiation coming out of the modem. So to make a long story short, plug your wireless modem into an Ethernet cord, plug the Ethernet cord into your computer, and make sure that you call your internet service provider, or maybe you know how to do it, and disable the wireless function on the modem. This will really help your health in a large way. It'll help your sleep. I can't emphasize this enough. All right, thank you.